Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've got 2 verses to recite. But before we recite, I'll quickly do Mangalacharan. And if you know the words, you can join along. If you don't, that's okay. Just fold your hands and let's meditate on taking blessings from our gurus and also from the Vaishnavas and from Radha Gokulananda themselves. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasme Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadatmayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, So thank you for coming to the Bhagavad Gita class. So there's 2 verses to go through, text 65 of chapter 2 and text 66. 65 doesn't have a purport, but 66 does, but we'll still go through like normal, but I'll spend more time reciting text 66 with the verses. So you can follow me on the screen and you can recite after me. Prasade sarva dukhanam hanirashyo pajayate prashna chetaso yashu buddhi paryavatishtate. So I'll read the word for word synonyms. Prasade, on achievement of the causeless mercy of the Lord. Sarva, of all. Dukhanam, material miseries. Hani, destruction. Ashya, his. Upajayate, takes place. Prashna chetasa, of the happy-minded. He, certainly. Ashu, very soon. Buddhi, intelligence. Pari, sufficiently. Avatishtate, becomes established. So the translation is as follows. For one thus satisfied, you can follow after me, repeat after me. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. There's no purport for this one, but when you read the second verse, you'll all get combined. So we'll move on to this text 66. Okay, cool. Thank you. So again, repeat after me if you can. Nastir buddhira yuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayata shantir ashantasya kuta sukham. Nasti buddhira yuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayata shantir ashantasya kuta sukham. Anyone like to repeat? Give it a go. Nastir buddhira yuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayata shantir ashantasya kuta sukham. Well done, thank you. Anyone else would like to try? Nasti buddhira yuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayata shantir asantasya kuta sukham. Excellent, thank you. So we'll do word for word translations. Na asti, there cannot be. Buddhi, transcendental intelligence. Ayuktasya, of one who is not connected with Krishna consciousness. Na, not. Cha, and. Ayuktasya, of one devoid of Krishna consciousness. Bhavana, fixed mind in happiness. Na, not. Cha, and. Abhavayata, of one who is not fixed. Shanti, peace. Ashantasya, of the unpeaceful. Kuta, where is? Sukham, happiness. So the translation is as follows. And you can repeat after me as well. One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So one who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So we'll now go through the purport by His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Unless one is in Krishna consciousness, there is no possibility of peace. So it is confirmed in the 5th chapter, 5.29, that when one understands that Krishna is the only enjoyer of all the good results of sacrifice and penance, that he is the proprietor of all universal manifestations, and that he is the real friend of all living entities, then only can one have real peace. Therefore, if one is not in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be a final goal for the mind. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal. And when one is certain that Krishna is the enjoyer, proprietor, and friend of everyone and everything, then one can, with a steady mind, bring about peace. Therefore, one who is engaged without a relationship with Krishna is certainly always in distress and is without peace. However much he may make a show of peace and spiritual advancement in life. Krishna consciousness is a self-manifested peaceful condition which can be achieved only in relationship with Krishna. And that ends the purport. So let's recap the two translations of the verses together, and that'll make sense for the class. So the first verse, 65, was, for one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. But then text 66 says, one who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace, and how can there be any happiness without peace? So you can see there's two contrasts. If you've got Krishna consciousness, you're going to attain peace and happiness. But if you're not in any form of way performing any sort of Krishna consciousness or God consciousness, we're not going to have any peace or happiness. So let's expand on this, and let's expand with the purport which we got. So a recap, if you've not been following the Bhagavad Gita on a regular basis from the Manor, which is fine, or you've not read it for a while, or it's the first time you've come here. In the second chapter of this Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's basically summarizing the whole content of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. And then obviously Arjuna's going to ask more questions and expand. Now Arjuna was obviously struggling on the battlefield, he didn't want to fight. Krishna's then obviously giving him transcendental knowledge, explaining to him, well, don't worry, you're not this material body, you're the soul, and so on. So Krishna is basically trying to teach Arjuna how to get a steady mind, sthita prajna. This has come in a previous verse. So how do you get a steady mind, and how can you attain peace and happiness? So Arjuna is asking Krishna in text 54, which was a few weeks ago, sthita pragnasya ka bhasha, samadhisthasya keshava, sthita dhi kim prabhasheta, kim ashita vrajeta kim. So Arjuna is asking, okay, you're giving me all this knowledge, but what is the symptom of the person whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? So if you're talking about transcendentalists, okay, how do they speak? What is the language? How do they walk? How do they sit? So Arjuna is asking on behalf of everyone, technically, okay, Krishna, you're giving all this philosophy, but what does such a person who follows your philosophy and who's a transcendentalist and peaceful at heart and mind look like and act like? So between text 55 and up until the text which we're going to cover, Krishna is basically answering Arjuna's question. So as a summary, Krishna is basically sharing his realization to Arjuna that to achieve real everlasting happiness and peace, first of all, someone has to have a steady mind. Stita prajna. That's the word which is used in the Bhagavad Gita by Krishna. And such a person is in divine consciousness. Now, what does that person look like? How do they behave? Now, before we go there, we mentioned the word happiness, which is going to be the theme of my class. Earlier, Krishna has told Arjuna that actually you need to tolerate happiness and distress like summer and winter seasons. So in text 14, he's given Matra Sparshastu Konteya, Situshna Sukadukada, Agama Paino Nityas, Twam Stitik Shava Bharata. He's saying, Arjun, happiness and distress is going to come and go like winter and summer seasons. Like right now, it's raining outside. A few days ago, it was bright and sunny. We have this yo-yo effect of weather, distress and happiness in Britain. Welcome. So Arjun was going through that, and Krishna is telling him, you need to just learn to tolerate this. So Krishna is telling Arjun to tolerate happiness. But the happiness he's talking about in verse 14 is not transcendental happiness, it's material happiness. What the happiness we're talking about in this coming verse is transcendental happiness. So bear with me, this mic is going to flop. Okay, let's see how long this mic lasts. Okay, so Krishna's basically explained to Arjun, detach oneself from your material body. Your material body is not it. That's going to perish. It's your spiritual body you want to be attached with. And he's basically teaching him to, with intelligence, detach from the fruits of your karma. So basically do your karma, but don't be attached to the fruits. And then also, yes, perform your duty according to the Vedas, but don't get attached to all the flowery language and the karma-kanda activities of the Vedas. Krishna is basically elevating Arjuna to get that steady mind in devotional consciousness, that stita prajna. So be in divine consciousness and get real knowledge. So Arjuna is then asking on behalf of all of us, okay, how does such a person who's got that steady mind, that true intelligence, behave? How do they look? How do they behave? So between verses 55 and 64, Krishna explains what such a person behaves like. So he gives up and detaches from sense gratification that arises from mental concoction. So basically, he doesn't just make things up, and he detaches himself from the sense gratification. He purifies his mind and becomes self-satisfied and is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So basically, he cleans up his mind, cleans up his attitude, cleans up his sense of understanding, gets pure consciousness, and then basically gets transcendental consciousness. And basically, they're thinking and acting on the viewpoint of the soul, not this material body, this spirit soul. So they're trying to identify who they really are. So such a person is steady in the mind, and they're not disturbed by material happiness and distress. And nor are they, worried about other things and other problems. So they're free from attachment, fear, and anger. So a person with a steady mind, a person who's going to be associating from the soul, they are detached from attachment, fear, and anger. And they're unaffected by good and evil of this material world because they realize, well, this is all temporary. This isn't it. So they don't get affected by good and evil, and they don't despise or praise it because they are in perfect knowledge. Now, perfect knowledge is one thing. How do you behave with that perfect knowledge? Once you get perfect knowledge, you control your senses. So such a person, a transcendentalist, they can control their senses without, being affected by things. So like a tortoise, as described by Krishna in the early verses, they can retract their limbs. They can retract their senses at the right time and not get affected. So the Stita Prajna person, which is mentioned by Arjuna's question, how do they sit? How do they behave? How do they act? The sitting, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, actually, the sitting is in regards to how do they not react to their senses. So like a tortoise, they can withdraw. Now, such a person is basically free from all types of attachment and aversion, and they can control their senses through regular principles of freedom. So their senses are under control and do not fall in the trap of getting attached to things. Because what happens when we get attached to things? We can get lusty if our intentions are not right. If we don't attain that object which we're lusting after, we get angry. If we get angry, we get deluded. When we get deluded, we lose our intelligence. So we need to control our senses. And senses are a very strong thing. They can carry the mind away. So Krishna is saying, such a person who's got a steady mind, they've got the true knowledge. And if they've got the true knowledge, then they basically are happy and with peace. And such a person will basically obtain the causeless mercy of the Lord, which is prasad. So that comes to verse 65, the very first word, prasade. So what happens to such a person when they get the causeless mercy? Krishna is basically telling Arjuna to obtain this prasad, you need to fix your mind and activities on devotional service, Krishna Bhakti. Fix it on Krishna. And by performing Krishna Bhakti, what happens? Sarva dukhanam hanir ashyopajayate. So that's from verse 65, which we recited. The threefold miseries of material existence no longer exist. Anyone know the threefold miseries? What they are? So it's a very common term we use in our philosophy, threefold miseries. They're basically the sufferings that we have in this material world. And they can be divided in three subjects or three topics. Adhyatmika klesh, which is distress of the mind and body, like your illness, disease, old age. Your mind is to do with your own self. And that's probably the main one. But then you got the other ones. Adhibhautik, distress from other living beings. So it could be distress from your boss, which you don't like. It could be a family member who you disagree with. It could even be a mosquito which is biting you non-stop in India, and then you just get ill. That's adhibhautik, from other living beings, other living things. And then you got the third one, adhidevik. Adhidevik is natural forces. So natural forces, look at the weather, it's raining. We don't like the rain, do we? We don't like the cold. That's suffering from a natural cause. Earthquakes, typhoons, natural disasters. This is all natural forces. So you can have these distress and suffering from three. Go on, sort it out for me. I think it's this one. And it doesn't tie it. We tied it. Don't worry, I'll hold it. It's okay. I'll hold it, don't worry. As long as everyone can hear me, everyone okay? Good. And anyone online, hopefully you can hear me as well. Right. So, these three material distresses, adhyatmic, adhibhautik, adhidevik, they together form the threefold miseries of this material world. So, a person who achieves Krishna's prasad, they basically are unaffected by these threefold miseries. And when they're not affected, such a person is satisfied from the heart, stable from the mind, and then they receive true intelligence, leading to real peace and happiness. Prasanna chetaso hi ashu buddhi paryavatishtate. So that's what's in verse 65, that such a person will be satisfied consciously, and then one's real intelligence will soon be established. How can we establish that? By being connected in Krishna Bhakti, performing Bhakti Yoga. Yoga means to connect. So by performing Krishna Bhakti, we are safe from further fall down, further distress. How can we get this? By first having the right knowledge that you are not the body, you are the soul. To learn to be detached from your material results, and instead of learning to please your senses, use your ability in pleasing Krishna's senses. Water the plant, it'll go to the roots. If you water the roots, the fruits will grow. Same thing, if we water our Krishna Bhakti, naturally the fruits of spiritual benefits, not material benefits, will be passed on to us. And that's the long-term benefit. Now, knowing all these facts, we can transcendentally be peaceful and happy on a permanent level. Now, one thing to point out before we go to the other verse, the flip side, the contrast. is that you'll never be satisfied in whatever you do unless you somehow attach it to Krishna. A good example is even Vyasadeva. So Srila Vyasadeva has compiled all the Vedas. He's compiled the Mahabharata, the Purans. And this Bhagavad Gita is actually part of the Mahabharata. Yet, even after compiling all these literatures, he was not happy. He was not satisfied. The reason for that was, he didn't actually emphasize on bhakti in any of his literature. In any of the Vedas, in any of its Purans, he never emphasized on solely the glories of bhakti. So he didn't get, he wasn't fully Krishna conscious in what he had written, apparently. He was, but to us, to show us the way, he was unhappy. He was not satisfied from the heart. It's only when Narad Muni went up to him and told him, "You're not satisfied. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ji ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gauranitai ki jai," sorry. Okay. So Srila Vyasadeva was not satisfied with compiling all these Vedas, all these literatures, because he did not emphasize on Krishna Bhakti. So Narad Muni came to him, his guru, and said, "Vyasadeva, you've done an excellent job, but the reason why you are not happy is because you've not actually taught or spoken about the topic of bhakti. You've not emphasized it directly." Only after Srila Vyasadeva wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam was he fully satisfied from the heart. So if Srila Vyasadeva was unsatisfied with all this knowledge and literature until he reached bhakti, all the knowledge we gain is not going to satisfy us until we utilize it in Krishna Bhakti, or we learn about Krishna Bhakti and use that in our life. So only by being attached to Krishna consciousness in some way or another, God consciousness, if you want to call it that way as well, will you really achieve real happiness and peace. So what happens to a person who's not connected in Krishna Bhakti, which is text 66, which we had the purport? Such a person can neither have transcendental intelligence, will not be steady from the mind, and therefore they won't have any peace, so they won't be stita prajna, and ultimately they will never be happy. They will never get true happiness. Now, such a person who's not happy, if you think about it, let's all think about ourselves. When we're happy, we feel free. But if we're not happy, or if we're not satisfied, we're constantly going to be living in fear and anxiety of some sort. So, if we live in fear and anxiety, we're never going to really know our true self. We're never going to be happy with our own selves, and we'll not know our true purpose. We'll be confused. So the very age-old question, how many of you are actually happy? Anyone? A little bit? So you probably was a little bit happy. You're not raising your hand. You're like, "No, I'm not happy." You're like this. So we all being honest. We all have some sort of happiness and distress that we go through in life. That's material. But what we're really searching for is eternal happiness from within. So what is real happiness? What satisfies the soul? That's what real happiness is. So let's talk about this happiness. How can we find happiness? So we can find happiness in various things in life. It could be like, some happy moments in our life. We've achieved some, goal in our life. It could be material, it could be spiritual. We could have bought something and that could give us happiness for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 year. But end of the day, the things that we are looking for, or we're looking happiness for it might be more or less material. So wherever you're looking for material happiness, it's not going to last. There's always going to be some catch. For example, you might buy a brand new car, a brand new expensive Ferrari, Lamborghini, if that's what you like. And you will be happy, you'll be like, "Hey, I achieved this." But 5 minutes later, you see the bill. You see how much petrol it, guzzles up and how much petrol you're going to fill. You see your insurance. You might bring it to the manor for, to take darshan, but then you worry about if someone's going to scratch my car whilst I'm in here. Reverse parking and then bang. So you can see it brings anxiety, it can bring distress. That happiness for 5 minutes might actually have all these other things attached to it. But we want spiritual happiness. We want happiness from the heart. We want to be satisfied from within eternally. Another example I can give is when we look for happiness, we might ask people what happiness is, or are they looking for happiness. One time I was on Sankirtan, and I'm not a great book distributor, but I like Harinam. So we were going down Camden Market, up and down, doing Harinam, and we were giving books out. Now, one book which you might have seen is called Chant and Be Happy. So one thing me and another friend decided to do is, like, when giving the book out or trying to entice people to take the book, we were just asking, hey, do you want to learn how to be happy? Do you want to learn about happiness? Some people were actually reciprocated. They were smiling, like Prabhuji over here, saying, yeah, I'd like to be happy. Let me take that book. Or some people are like, yeah, I'd like to know more about happiness. Let me see what the book's about. But we bumped into one person. He looked normal, wasn't angry, wasn't happy, just normal. We just went up to him, said, hey, would you like to be happy? And he just shouted and said, no. And with an angry face, walked away. And we were left thinking, wow, someone doesn't want to be happy. Truth is, everyone wants to be happy, but if we're not achieving something materially that we think is going to give us happiness, we get angry, we get frustrated. And that frustration then comes out. And we think, yeah, we're never going to be happy. So we need to find what real happiness is. So what is happiness? A friend of mine recently, we were talking about, right, what do we think happiness is? And he gave a really nice example to me to understand something. He said, on the other side of fear is happiness. So we've all got anxiety, we've all got fear that's holding us back from happiness. So how do we become happy? Well, first of all, to attain happiness, we should probably face and tackle our fears. We should tackle our anxieties and deal with them. Arjun was fearing fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra because he was worried about, I'm going to have to fight my relatives, I'm going to have to fight my friends. I'm worried about when all these warriors are gone and dead, the world is going to have an imbalance. He was worried about the result, the consequence. But Krishna pacified him and taught him perfect knowledge to understand, don't fear the result. Do your duty as a warrior, leave the result to me. And don't worry, be happy from within. So basically, Krishna gave perfect knowledge. Same thing with us, Bhagavad Gita. If we understand the perfect knowledge Krishna gives us, we will be happy from the heart. We'll be happy and peaceful from within. So that's perfect knowledge. So true permanent happiness is derived when one understands this true knowledge. And that true knowledge will help us understand our real identity. It's only if you truly know yourself from within, and you're satisfied with yourself from within, and comfortable with yourself within, and love yourself within, that you will be truly happy and peaceful at heart. So your real freedom actually comes by being self-satisfied and secure with self-love from within. So the Bhagavad Gita, technically speaking, a lot of people don't think of it this way. They think it's like a book that preaches, but actually, Krishna's written a love letter to us. The Bhagavad Gita is technically one of the greatest love letters in the world. 700 verses, yes, a very long love letter, but it's a love letter where Krishna is teaching you transcendental knowledge to, first of all, love yourself. Be happy with yourself. Recognize yourself. Understand who you are from the spirit soul. And when you understand your true position, and you're satisfied with your true position, you can love yourself, and then you can really love Krishna. Krishna is after our love. He loves us more than we love him, but he wants our love in return, nothing else. But we can only give him love if we love ourselves, if we have love within us. So true permanent happiness is derived when you understand who you really are, self-love. So, how do we do this? Well, first of all, Krishna is teaching us, connect to your soul, connect to your true identity. Understand who you really are. And associate all your different activities and action for him. In Krishna consciousness, in God consciousness. And that will connect us with real peace and happiness. So in this world, we're constantly facing battles of miseries, as we've said, all these adhyatmika of the mind, of the body, adhibhotik, of other people, of other living things, including mosquitoes, and adhidevik, natural disasters. We've always got some sort of miseries which we're contending with, and we've disturbed by famine, war, etc. We might lament, we might cry, we might complain, we might get bogged down by negativity. But if we engross ourselves in the material concept of life, then we will never derive real happiness. We'll get temporary happiness and then have these miseries again and again and again. So Krishna is telling us to get permanent happiness, we need to work from the spirit level. And we need to be happy from within and identify ourselves in relation to him. And that will give us permanent happiness. So the day we realize that we are the spirit soul and we're part and parcel of Krishna, that is the day we'll actually realize our relationship with Krishna. And when we realize who Krishna truly is, we'll actually realize we share a connection which is deeper than just of, master and servant. Krishna is described in the first verse of Brahma Samhita as Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchid Ananda Vigraha Anadi Radhe Govindam Sarva Karana Karanam. So some of you may have heard this very first famous verse. Ishvara Parama Krishna. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna. He is Satchid Ananda Vigraha. His form, Satchid Ananda. So what is Satchid Ananda? Sat means ever eternal. So there's no, death or birth. Ever eternal, ever existing. Chit, full of knowledge, true knowledge, complete knowledge. And importantly, the third one, Anand, eternal bliss, eternal happiness. So Krishna is ever eternal, full of knowledge, and ever blissful. That's Krishna's form. He has no origin, but he's the origin of everything and the source and cause of everything, including us. And guess what? We're part and parcel of him. The day we recognize that we're actually a fragment of him, meaning qualitatively we're the same, that's the day we'll realize, okay, our original form is Satchit Ananda Vigraha as well. We are actually eternal. Krishna explains that in the Bhagavad Gita, that we are the spirit soul. The spirit soul never dies, never gets born. Full of knowledge. Right now, our knowledge is covered with ignorance. But the moment we realize the true knowledge that Krishna is sharing in the Bhagavad Gita to us, and we digest it, and we understand our relationship with Krishna, that's when the true knowledge will get realized and reawakened in us. And lastly, when we realize that, full of happiness. Krishna's full of happiness. Guess what? If you are realizing you're eternal, full of knowledge, you're naturally going to be happy as well. That's your original form. Srila Prabhupada expands on this in a nice way in a lecture which he gave in 1975. So if you look for Srimad Bhagavatam lecture 1, Canto 1, 2nd chapter, text 9, I can't find the date for some reason, but it's a university lecture he gave in 1975, and he says the following. The Vedanta Sutra says that Anandamayo Bhyashat, because we are spirit soul, our position is Anandamaya. Anandamaya means always blissful. Because we are part and parcel of God, God is blissful. All good, Satchidananda Vigraha. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchid Ananda Vigraha. His form, he has got form. He's not formless, but his form is different. That form is Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means eternal, and Chit means full of knowledge, and Ananda means full of bliss. So, we are part and parcel of God. Krishna says, Mame Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta. So this is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 7. All these living entities, they are my part and parcel. So if Krishna is Satchit Ananda, then we are also Satchit Ananda, because we are part. Just like gold, and a gold small particle, that is also gold. So Srila Prabhupada gives the example of a gold and a gold particle. You might have a lump of gold, and you might have a flake of gold. But the gold is same in quality. Same thing. Krishna has Satchidananda form. So do we. But Krishna is magnanimously greater. He's huge. He's, unfathomable in terms of quantity. But we are part and parcel of him. So qualitatively, we're the same. Quantitatively, minute. But the point is, we share that same quality. That's the main point. Gold will be gold. So Krishna is basically helping Arjuna here understand the same principle. And he's helping us understand this as well, that we are not the body, we're the eternal soul. We've got true knowledge within us, we just need to awaken it. And we will know ourselves once we get this true knowledge, therefore, finally realizing who we truly are, and will be ever blissful, i.e. forever happy and peaceful. So we as individual souls are also Satchidananda, as we figured out now. And if we ever blissful, then regardless of the threefold miseries that we get exposed to in this material body, we will not be affected by them. That's the real Krishna Prasad, which is mentioned in text 65. So Krishna is basically saying that this will only happen for those who are connected in Krishna consciousness. Only they can have that steady mind, sthita prajna, and that true intelligence. And only such people will realize that they are the spirit soul and part and parcel of the Lord. So Krishna is basically asking us to find our true selves, identify who we are from a spirit soul perspective, our original form. And when we start working from that spirit level and from that platform, then we won't get affected by these miseries. And instead, when we're purely happy, we'll smile from within. Now, someone shared this nice acronym for the word smile to me. I'm not sure where the source is from, but it's coming from a conversation a few years ago when I had with someone. The way they split out the word smile as an acronym, S-M-I-L-E, they spelled it out to me as sort out, that's the S, my, that's the M, inner, I, love, L, engine, E. Sort out my inner love engine. If you're really going to smile from within, you would have sorted out your inner love engine. You need to love yourself first. You need to be happy with yourself. Then you're going to smile. So we also, using Krishna's guidance, we need to find ourselves, love ourselves, and then we can love him. We can't love someone with an empty glass. Krishna wants a full glass. So we need to help ourselves and be happy from within. Meaning, love ourselves. So we need to help ourselves and understand this knowledge and apply it in our lives. And by performing Krishna Bhakti, that will help us get there. So as I mentioned, the Bhagavad Gita is truly a love letter by Krishna. He's helping us find ourselves, love ourselves, and then we can realize him and love him. So that's the real prasad. Now we all love prasad. What is prasad? Causeless mercy. So when you're full of happiness and love, you receive Krishna's causeless mercy. Once Aarti is done here, once the shank blows at 7:25, all of you will see that Mahaprasad come out and go to the reception. And once Aarti is over, all of you will run for that Mahaprasad and be like, I want that prasad from Krishna. So that's prasad. Another prasad you will all be after is the flowers from Krishna. So obviously, when Aarti is done, the flowers that are offered to Krishna come out, and all of us want to smell that flower. Some of us even want the garland from Krishna, which you can get. If you ask for it nicely, with a special reason, you can get. This is Mahaprasad. This is the mercy from the Lord. And this Mahaprasad, whilst it, it's something we consume, something which perishes, the flowers will perish in our garden, the point is, it will help us get closer to Krishna. And it acts like a ticking time bomb. Let me explain that. When we used to go to university, we used to have like Krishna Society, and that still exists. And some people would come to these programs, but they weren't interested in the philosophy. They weren't interested in actually, taking part in the devotional process. They were just hungry students. They just wanted the prasad because they were tired of having beans on toast every day. So they would come to these programs, have the prasad. And they're like, that's all we want. We don't want the philosophy. Funny thing is, 10 years later, you will see that same person all of a sudden on the altar performing Aarti to Radha Gokulananda. And you're like, how did that happen? They weren't interested in the philosophy. What happened there? They actually accepted the Mahaprasad. And that Mahaprasad might not act instantly, but it's like a ticking time bomb. That mercy, one day or another, will get digested by you. And when it gets digested by you, something will hit. That causeless mercy will hit you. Then your journey in Krishna consciousness truly begins. But the point is, this is going to happen to all of us. Congratulations. All of you who are coming here for darshan right now could have been somewhere else. All of you who could have been going to another restaurant eating something instead are looking forward to the Mahaprasad that's going to come out over there. Whether you like it or not, one day that Mahaprasad is going to make an impact on you, and boom, Krishna is going to wake you up at the right time, and he's going to make that connection with you. That's causeless mercy. That's the real goal of mercy. So this mercy, how does it become even more stronger? When we share it. So I enjoy, like when we're doing service here, if someone's asking for flower, you give it. When you're serving the prasad out, you give it. You enjoy that service. You're connected to Krishna, and you feel much more, happy sharing that causeless mercy. If we take the message from the Bhagavad Gita seriously, and if we actually understand this love letter that Krishna has written to us, we would actually want to share it with other people as well. Like the gopis. The gopis, they would share Krishna's mercy to the distressed. So para dukkha dukhi, that was the emphasis. So with empathy, they understood what people were after and why they're distressed, and give that mercy to other people as well. We should have that same mood. Share that mercy with others. Share that causeless mercy once we receive it. So how can we stay happy? How can we be content with ourselves and then give it to others? It's by knowing our true self and knowing our ultimate goal. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions an interesting thing. We need to know our ultimate goal, and by knowing our ultimate goal, then we can actually proceed. So in the purport, Prabhupada's written, therefore, if one is not in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be a final goal for the mind. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal. And when one is certain that Krishna is the enjoyer, the proprietor and friend of everyone and everything, then one can, with a steady mind, bring about peace. So if we understand that Krishna is the actual supreme enjoyer, he's a proprietor, he owns everything. And importantly, he's the friend for everyone. That's the main bit. Krishna is our friend. If we understand these three things, then we'll have a steady mind, that's stita prajna. We won't get affected by these material miseries, and that will bring about peace. So that's the ultimate goal, understanding our relationship with Krishna. So we need to understand the ultimate goal. So if we understand the ultimate goal, we'll understand our supreme destination, which is to be at the lotus feet of Krishna, to serve him, to be his friend, be happy with him. So we should do that by performing Krishna Bhakti, by performing devotional service to the Lord. And if we perform devotional service, Krishna Bhakti, wholeheartedly, then the ultimate prasad, the mercy, which is real happiness and peace, we will actually achieve that. And we won't have to worry about anything ever again. So, how do we actually get past this point of material misery? Because it's all theoretically good. You can hear this lecture, you can read Bhagavad Gita, Krishna saying, perform Krishna Bhakti, everything will be fine. But let's be honest, when you initially start Krishna Bhakti, not everything is fine. We're going to still face hurdles. We're going to still face challenges. Overnight, it doesn't get flicked off like a switch of a button, all our worries and miseries. We will have to face our fears. We'll have to face our so-called miseries and deal with them. But why is that? If you look at the process of devotional service, it first of all starts with faith, shraddha. You have some sort of faith from somewhere. And then you do association with sadhus. You learn from them, sadhu sangha. Then you start your devotional service, bhajana kriya. So you start chanting, you perform devotional service. But that devotional service is going to bring up anarthas in you, meaning disturbances that you've not dealt with. It's like a churning of the ocean. And guess what? It's not a steady ride. It'll be a yo-yo effect. You'll go up and down, up and down. But that's a good thing, because you are going to use your bhakti to face those challenges and deal with them once and for all. So this is why we face anarthas. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's given the Shikshastakam, and the very first line is Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Maha Devagni Nirvapanam. So, all glories to the holy name that cleanses the soul of all the accumulated material dust and extinguishes the fire of conditional life. So that's what the holy name does. So guess what? When you're chanting the holy name, when you're performing devotional service, you're going to have to go through this process of cleaning your soul, cleaning this dust of material contamination from your true identity, and then going through that fire, extinguishing that fire of distress that we're feeling. So you are going to feel this. So it's not an easy ride. It's not an overnight thing. We are going to face challenges. So how can we face this challenge and stay strong in our Krishna consciousness and, not get dissuaded by the distress that we might face? I want to end with a nice message that one of my gurus, Sripad Ayendra Prabhu, he wrote a very nice passage in his book, The Heart of Transcendental Book Distribution. And I want to read this out. And it's a nice thing to end on before we have questions and arti. Krishna just wants to have a relationship with us. So he disturbs us in this way or that, or from time to time sends us some special Mahaprasadam or a nice garland of lotus flowers just to, in some way or other, remind us that he still exists waiting patiently behind the whole cosmic affair. He has his hand everywhere, and behind that hand is the rest of his person, who is so sweet and adorable and enchanting and full of rasa. So though we may feel mistreated in some way, or disturbed or dismayed by various situations, when we see within our heart of hearts the all-attractiveness of his beautiful face, we will no longer feel inclined to bear any grudges. Why? Because we know he always has our best interests at heart, and that ultimately he loves us. Even if by his prankish behavior, he makes us shed a stream of tears for the rest of eternity. So the point over here that Ayana Prabhu was making is very simple. He's like, Krishna's Tribhangi. He's not straight. He's crooked. He's bent from three angles, right? And he likes to tease us. He likes to prank us. He likes to tease us. He likes to test us. But he's testing us to see how strong our love for him is. So even through our distress, see his hand, see his mercy in everything. Because if you're going to remember Krishna through all your happiness and distress, you will then realize he's got his hand in everything. And in fact, he's dragging you closer. He's pulling you closer to him than you think. So always be remaining Krishna Bhakti. Always be Krishna conscious. And people who are in Krishna conscious, as we read, they will be self-satisfied. They'll have a steady mind, sthita prajna. They'll be full of happiness and peace from the heart. And ultimately, we'll be back with Krishna and we'll have our original relationship with him and we'll have fun with him. So that's what Krishna's teaching us over here about the Bhagavad Gita. Find our true selves, love our true selves, then you'll be able to love Krishna and you will have happiness and peace. So we've got around 1 minute, I think. And if anyone's got any comments or questions, they can raise their hand. Prabhuji, go on.
I have a question, but I think you might have answered it just.
That's fine.
I wrote down, since we're talking about fear. If I don't know my fears and anxieties, I feel the symptoms of those fears and anxieties.